through the garbage, the trash. I mean, we've got so many talk radio shows that are just stuck on stupid, stuck on perpetual war, stuck on being cowards, mealy mouths, don't want to challenge Big Pharma, want to act like a bunch of bozos and dum-dums like they're asleep at the wheel. That's conservative Inc. It's trash. It's a waste of time. But if you want to get to the truth, if you want to arm your family and equip them with powerful information that can empower your life, your health, your nutrition, your economy, your financial situation, then you've come to the right place. That's what A Neighbor's Choice is all about. We don't pull punches here. We're guided by the principles of personhood, self-reliance, taking care of our neighbors. All of that is involved with skin in the game. That's the skin in the game philosophy we have here, that you got to roll up your sleeves and solve problems yourselves. You can't wait for DC to tell you what to do. They don't know what to do. If that's not clear to you now, I don't know when it will ever be clear. Daily Mail reports breaking news. Cats are falling ill. They are falling ill with life-threatening stress. The cats, because of the lockdowns, as owners spend longer at home and damage felines' daily regimes, the veterinarians are concerned. The coronavirus is creating life-threatening levels of stress because their owners are spending more time at home getting in their way from them urinating on their socks. And so for dogs, the article says, this may have come as a blessing, but our feline friends found it a little too much to bear, leaving them stressed out over too much time with their owners. Now, if there's one issue that will stop some of the neurotic left and their incessant desire for endless lockdowns, it will be the fact that cats are falling ill with stress. That's the one thing that I think will really, really wake some of them up, to the point where they'll say, my goodness, what have we done? This is a moral atrocity to continue doing lockdowns. The cats are having anxiety disorders, especially the ones that have to hang out with the white liberals. You know, that's a lot of neurotic anxiety to have to be swimming in as a here. But it's actually love is really what's not wanted, unfortunately. But if the cats are taking ill because of the lockdowns, this could be the big turning point we've been looking for the compassionate, bleeding heart left to come to their senses. Let us hope and pray. In other news, something that is the opposite in terms of motivating joy in the Mick Woke left. Joe Rogan has posted a COVID test saying he's tested negative today. Thanks for all the kind wishes. So he took ivermectin and natural supplements and the monoclonal antibodies, zithromycin. We were telling you about azithromycin back when this thing first hit. What was it, February, March? We were talking about it of 2020. And so he took that. And the left was just outraged at the thought that somebody was doing something that the TV did not approve as the official thing you were allowed to take for this disease. So that is going to be a very unsettling, disturbing event for those who are TV party members. When you look at this other story, you have to wonder what is going on again out of the crazy folks in D.C. We see this, that there's reports that child brides are being brought over and all the people flooding in from Afghanistan. They are bringing in all these people who are saying, these are underage girls, and they're saying, oh, I'm the bride of this man along with many other children. And as Jack Posobiec, the reporter at Human Events, said, they left the dogs, but they're bringing in the pedophiles. I don't know what it is about DC. They just, how many of the kids have they lost track of that came unaccompanied over the border? Where are they at now? And what's going to happen to all these people that were brought over en masse artificially to come to this country? These people who are doing this mass migration, they hate this country. They want to create chaos. They want to create a perversion of the ideas that the founders intended. The founders wanted to have a country that could allow people to have freedom. And these folks in D.C. who are running D.C., they hate the freedoms that we have. They hate the family values. They hate the cohesive worldview. So here's the thing. For those who say, oh, we should have open statist borders, right? Open statist borders. Okay. And so they get that idea because they think that they don't understand anything about anthropology. They don't understand how we in the West got our values by inheriting Christianity and then using that as the foundation to build some of the structures of law and cultural expectations that we have today. Even the errors we have are errors that are being built on top of Christian type concerns for the victims, for the least of these, for the oppressed, for the marginalized. That's where we have all these things. And so we tried to, we didn't try, the thugs in D.C. that wanted to experiment with our money for $2 trillion and thousands of people's lives. They tried to force Afghanistan's culture to by force accept our worldview culturally. And it failed. After $2 trillion and 20 years later, it never worked. So if it doesn't work when they try to get them to get along with egalitarian Western liberty ideas in their place, what makes you think when you bring hundreds of thousands of them over here that they're going to get on board with egalitarian presumption of innocence, protect the individual person, respect religious pluralism, all those things that they rejected after $2 trillion, where they didn't have to leave their house. They were just being forced, conditioned to try to accept these ideas in their own backyard. They didn't accept it. So why would those same folks just magically accept it once they come over here? Now, some might, but many others won't. And that's why it's an attack on this country to exploit our concern for victims in an artificial statist policy of sprinkling these refugees, who some of them are men with underage girls as brides. That's not a refugee, that's a punk, right? To bring those people and scatter them all into the red or purple swing states. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And to not be able to see that this is an attack on a cohesive culture, okay? A cohesive culture means we don't accept anybody doing underage brides stuff, right? We don't do that here. And over in Afghanistan, they might say, we don't do this whole idea of drag queen story time. So you put those two together, and I'm not saying it's not going to result in a cohesive culture. And the DC dummies, they either are the dumbest people in the world, or they just have an absolute hatred for anything that has to do with the best of American culture. They hate Christianity. They hate presumption of innocence. They hate freedom of speech. They hate freedom of religion. They hate freedom of association. They hate the right to self-defense. They hate habeas corpus. They hate what the founders said when they said, we go not abroad in search of monsters to destroy. We're the well-wishers of all. Or George Washington saying, we are going to stay out of entangling alliances. They hate what Thomas Jefferson and John Adams talked about with using the jury to strike down their tyrannical laws. They hate what Benjamin Rush had to say about the rights of health freedom. They hate what this country is. They want to remake it. They're jealous. They're envious of it. They're covetous of the power and the beauty. You know, you hear them say to us that the terrorists hate us because of our freedoms. It's actually the opposite. The anti-American folks that hate America in D.C., they hate us for our freedoms. They're the ones that want to strip us of our liberties and strip us of our culture so that we can be as miserable as they are, where the only thing that gets them concerned is not the life of a 9-month-old baby in the womb, but rather cats getting anxiety disorders during a lockdown. I'm David Gronowski. We'll take a quick break and return. live on A Neighbor's Choice. Stay with us. David Granosky here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals, join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Lang, board-certified doctor and host of Ask. I have designed and developed an amazing omega-3 product. We're seeing outstanding results with our patients at the Lang Eye Institute. This product is called Fortify Super Omega-3 Max, one of the most potent and purest re-esterified triglyceride form omega-3s available in the world today. Developed with the top nutritional research teams in Norway, it is without a question one of the most potent triglyceride forms omega-3. It comes in a gel cap that is easy to digest. I've created a 50% more potent based omega-3. It was designed from research of the latest clinical studies to bring 2,400 milligrams of the purest omega-3 in the world. Omega-3 is great for all aspects of your health and well-being. Fortify Super Omega usually retails for $35. I'm providing a 25% discount with promo code RADIO. Go to my website, fortify.com. That's Fortifeye, fortify.com. Remember the EYE and Fortify. I am Dr. Lang, and I am keeping America fit and healthy with clean supplements.
A Neighbor's Choice returns. David Granosky here, your host. So it's true that the folks who are running our foreign policy in D.C., they don't seem to care about First Amendment. They don't care about human sovereignty. Now, some folks do. I'm not saying everybody in D.C. is in on the monolithic thing. Apparently, some of the folks have left the FDA. Some of the top virologists and the scientists there are leaving in protest. And I've heard that they might speak out. It's about darn time somebody speak out. That they are protesting the push to push this onto kids. That there's no science for this stupid push this dumb clown Fauci wants to push. And to push back on the shameless shilling for boosters. Let's hope we start hearing the dam burst and the people start speaking. We need ethical people. Let us hope and pray ethical people with guts can do the right thing finally and speak out against the corruption of the empire. Dr. James Nicolantonio, who I'm going to try to get him on the show, he's good about understanding minerals, the importance of magnesium and copper and chromium, different little minerals that a lot of people are chronically deficient in because they don't eat whole foods. How many people eat calf liver, beef liver? It's something you should be incorporating into your diet on a weekly basis. And for people to say they can't stand the taste, it's just they don't know how to cook it right, or they got a bad quality source of it. But he has a tweet that I thought gives us, again, a good context for the so-called public health establishment in D.C. He says they lied about tobacco, they lied about sugar, they lied about cholesterol, they lied about asbestos, they lied about mercury, they lied about Vioxx, they lied about fluoride, they lied about aspartame, they lied about glyphosate. So what else are they lying about? And it's not just about our health, which is the essential thing. You don't have health, you don't have anything. It's about all the lies. They lied that there was nothing to see about some of the shenanigans going on in places like Fulton County, Georgia. They lied that there was nothing to worry about when the housing market was in a big bubble and everybody was warning it, that people who were intelligent and ethical were warning about it. People like Nassim Taleb, Mark Faber, Peter Schiff, Ron Paul, Jeff Deist, Robert Murphy, Tom Woods. Nobody listened to them because they were filled with a sea of lies in D.C. and the New York media. But that's what we have. They lied about the housing market never going down. They lied about Afghanistan. They lied about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They lied about Assad doing those attacks. The OPCW whistleblower has exposed that scam. What are they lying about 9/11? What about the Saudis? When's that ever going to come out? What do they lie about so many things? What did they lie about what was known ahead of time about Pearl Harbor, for example, by FDR? How many people's grandparents were needlessly set up like sitting ducks when their own government may have known what the Japanese were doing and did nothing to stop it? How about we stop with this stupid charade game of deluding ourselves into believing in the lies of the abusers of history, abusing people en masse? When will the lying stop? They lied about the 2016 election. What did they lie about Epstein? They lied that Epstein was not even a thing. Remember, they lied and said there was no conspiracy about Epstein having anything with kids and stuff. And then they made that thing go away, and the whole country got to see for a moment a glimpse behind the curtain. So we've been swimming in lies, but we continually choose to go back to the sea of lies. And then we wonder why it gets worse and worse. They lied about the lab origins of this virus. They lied about the mask. They said, don't do it, don't do it. They lied about the disease itself. At first, they are all saying, if you care about this disease, you're part of the extremist fringe right. Then they said you're racist if you said we should shut off travel to China. Everything that comes out of the New York media and the DC, when it really matters, seems to be a lie. When are we going to stop participating in this abusive relationship and start taking care of problems closer to home? getting power back local. I'm a commenter on my work says, don't forget the medical community stance on the lipid theory, which is the cholesterol. Even when they knew it was wrong, there was too much money involved. When Dr. McCullough blew the lid on it, they tried to destroy his career. What about the lies of going on with the idea that the only solution for cancer is chemo, radiation, and surgery? And anybody that tries to do what the science actually says, which is that cancer is primarily a disease of the mitochondria, which would orient, you know, how many people you hear it on every radio station, you hear it on every TV station. We're raising money for cancer research, and all of it goes towards this fundamentally flawed paradigm that cancer is primarily a genetic disease. And so it's always looking for these high-priced, elaborate genetic approaches to dealing with cancers, rather than looking at the obvious scientific evidence-based approach, which is that it's a metabolic dysfunction, that it has something to do with what we're eating and what our environmental factors are. And that things like azithromycin and other antibiotics that are generics could be used to stop cancer metastasis and to actually kill the cancer stem cells. When will that sink in that is functionally a lie? That doesn't mean everybody who's doing those cancer research organizations are knowingly lying. They just buy the BS because humans buy mimetic groupthink. They just copy like parrots. But when's that lie going to be exposed? When's the lie that diabetes can only be corrected with insulin and so forth, rather than reducing inflammatory foods, sugars, carbs, and seed oils, and having dramatic enhancements of your quality of life and not having to be dependent on big pharma drugs? And like he said in the comments, Greg, when's the lie going to be exposed about the cholesterol hypothesis, which is what led to all of us being sickened for a century on toxic industrial waste that they call vegetable oils? So many lies that are ready for the whole world to know. And then the question is, what are we going to do to build back better once these sociopathic liars and their little crumbling institutions are totally exposed and discredited? Are we going to build more lies, or are we actually going to be adults and solve problems the way Jesus would do, which is actually care about people and not just be a mindless drone? So we'll take a break and return. Stay with us. Michael Rechtenwald will join us.
Labor Day weekend is upon us.
It is the traditional end of summer. Most Americans will spend this Labor Day doing something other than labor.
Labor Day, a day off from work in honor of work itself.
Break out the barbecue, it's Labor Day.
While Labor Day means the end of summer for our friends up north, here in the Sunshine State, we'll keep summer around for a good bit longer. So take a break this weekend and know we'll be right here with the news if you want to stay up to date. Happy Labor Day weekend from your friends at News Talk 1040 WHBO.
On the ground in Louisiana today, where residents are flooded out of homes or without power from Hurricane Ida. He's promising relief funds and long-time support to get back on their feet.
We're in this together, and so we're not going to leave any community behind.
Hey, Mike, we're happy to have you. We'll be going back on air here in a couple minutes.
Coastal, inland, and I promise we're going to have your backs till this gets done.
That pledge stretches across several states into the Northeast. In Philadelphia, where water rescues took place yesterday from remnants of Ida, Mayor Jim Kenney says the impact will be long felt.
The images we saw yesterday of our flooded neighborhoods and highways and the damage and debris and the aftermath that we saw today were hard to really believe. And I know that many Philadelphians are hurting right now.
The latest wave of COVID cases driven by the Delta variant keeping its grip on the economy, too. The Labor Department showing U.S. hiring slowed last month, 235,000 jobs added in August. I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
News Talk 1040 Tampa Bay weather forecast.
Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Ellen Archer at your News Talk 1040 WHBO Weather Center. Currently, our radar is indicating widely scattered showers and a few developing thunder showers trying to ease in slowly from the west-northwest. It's a 35% chance here this afternoon with the high temperature at 89, 20% tonight at 77, 20% tomorrow afternoon with a high of 89, just 10 to 15% Sunday here at News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, but Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved 2 people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com. A Neighbor's Choice is back. I'm your host, David Granosky. You can call in at 727-587-1040 or write a comment on our live stream on Rumble or other platforms where the video stream is Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Our website, aneighborschoice.com. Make sure you subscribe to our email newsletter to get all of our content. The commenter says, my grandma ate liver and onions weekly and lived to be 101. Well, that's the key. See, that was a smart grandma. And then they decided, hey, let's screw that up by getting people, instead of eating foods that they ate for thousands and thousands of years, let's get people to eat something we just made up in a lab. It's a waste product that we got from cottonseed oil manufacturing, and we fed it to cows, and we thought we made it less lethal than it used to be, and turns out they didn't. Another commenter says, excellent program as usual. Well done for being brave enough to go up against the pharmaceutical cathedral. Another says, godless heathens have no problem lying. Another comments about James D. Nicoletano being a great professor or scientist. But we are joined now by a special guest, someone who is considered a great figure for understanding the woke social justice movement, as well as the whole tyrannical machine that's powering that. We have with us Professor Michael Rectenwald. How you doing?
Great, David. How are you?
Great, and it's great to have you on again. We wanted to get you on to talk a little bit about your project with American Scholars. Can you tell us what this group is and what's it all about?
Yeah, American Scholars. You see, since I left academia in January of 2019, since I left NYU, I've been looking for a way to build a parallel structure to the cathedral, to quote one of your callers. And so I was looking for a way to, instead of merely just criticizing the academy for what it is, creating something new that would stand aside and offer alternatives. And so I was approached by a couple of entrepreneurs, and one is a big tech entrepreneur, and the other is a former admissions officer for academia. And they asked me to become the chief academic officer of this new startup. And it's an education platform, and it combines like discussion forums. So it's like a Reddit, except only for libertarian values, and it is also a forum where people can exchange ideas, and to fight back against wokeness, they can basically collaborate with each other, organize, and basically find ways to to basically counter this whole woke hegemony that we're up against. So our technology was totally designed in-house. We have no dependence on big tech. We have no censorship, no big tech censorship, certainly no propaganda. And we have, basically created this platform from scratch. And we're going to be launching here on September the 10th. It is AmericanScholars.com.
Well, very good. That sounds really exciting. What are some of are you going to have courses or just like the forum atmosphere? Or
it has a forum, but we have courses too. I've hired professors. I was really surprised that when we announced this in the news, in different outlets like Just the News and Epoch Times and other places, when they ran articles on us, we got a flood of applications from professors all over the country. I guess there's a lot of people, David, that are more or less in hiding in their institutions, but very much against what's happening with this totalitarianism, and very eager to actually teach for us. So we have courses. We're going to start off with a modicum of courses on the free market, on big tech censorship, on American history, on the Constitution and things like that, the founding principles of the United States. And it's basically anti-woke, non-indoctrinating education.
Now, in the roundtable you did with James Lindsay and I a while back, we were talking about alternatives to the postmodern, the woke ideology. And you talked about some things there, and forgive me for not remembering the terms. Maybe you could talk about it a little bit today. Do you get into some of that with the American Scholars work?
Yes. We're going to be having, lectures that treat things like postmodern theory. For example, what is it? How has it permeated our culture? What are the principles lack of thereof that are operative in the postmodernism movement? And, what are the signs? What are the telltale signs that you're dealing with it? And then again, of course, how to counter it. And, what are the actual arguments against it? We're going to have lectures on all these things. But as it stands, we're starting with a small cadre of faculty, about 4, including myself, and we have lectures that are up, that will be up on launch. And we're dealing with that topic with critical race theory, which I think is a racist ideology meant to divide and cause racial enmity between people and to reduce people to their phenotypes instead of treating them as individuals. We're going to have lectures on all these things.
What is is there anything that some folks who are conservative or independent or Christian have said that postmodernism in and of itself is not bad? It shouldn't be confused with the applications like critical theory and French postmodern, integration into leftist politics, that we need to be able to engage in postmodern thought and pull out things that are good for the keeping. Would you say that's true, or do you think the fundamental core of it is problematic?
There are some insights that are interesting and worthwhile, but in general, postmodern theory has this basic premise that all social relationships are based on nothing but power. And so what everything comes down to in terms of dealing with other people is jockeying for power against others. It holds that truth doesn't exist. This is just a function of power itself, that what's counted as true is basically that which can be stated and made true by the powerful. This runs aground on many fronts because it makes a completely relativistic world view, and it makes itself open to totalitarians, because if you have no objective correlative or objective criteria for truth, then it just becomes whatever the most powerful say is true becomes true. And we see this operating in our world today in many registers, right? We're being gaslit constantly, basically to deny our own senses, dominant narratives that have no basis in reality, that are actually the inversion of what's happening. This is happening in regards to race, in regards to COVID, in regards to all kinds of things. We're told that, basically war is peace, and we're supposed to believe this. I think postmodernism basically has some fundamental problems. Now, there are some thinkers like Michel Foucault who has some redeemable traits. He basically has a libertarian streak where he is valuing the individual to some extent. But for the most part, postmodern theory suggests that the individual is just a construct, and therefore it really doesn't exist. When you look at the individual as just a construct of the social, and you don't accord the individual any agency, that's a real problem.
Mm-hmm. You call social justice practical postmodernism. What does that mean by that phrase?
Yeah, exactly. It takes these rather impractical ideas of postmodern theory and puts them into political play. For example, saying things that just aren't true, making assertions based on language. See, postmodernism holds that language constructs reality, that there is nothing objective out there, that it is strictly a language game being played by the powerful. And we see our whole political sphere is saturated with this kind of belief. And you could say that it's come from both left and right. Some people have said that Donald Trump was a postmodern president. In some sense, that's true, but I think the left has really got really has the title here for postmodern politics. For example, that whatever you say you are. It has no basis in biology, genetics, or anything else. We're strictly talking about what I claim to be true. Is true, that everybody has their own truth, and there's no truth outside of that truth. This is very dangerous. It leaves an epistemic aporia, a complete lack. We're in an epistemic crisis in our culture because of this postmodern influence.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. When you see the at the same time, when I'm looking, when I think about social construct, the idea that reality is socially constructed, that's actually borrowing from Christianity, because Christianity says that God is three in one, so he's both society and one, and that's what made the world. And then the idea that language constructs reality, that's from the Bible too. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Yeah, the difference there is that in the beginning was the Word, is suggestive of the idea that there is truth, because logos is not simply word, but it also has a resonance of what is true, the truth. So in the beginning there was truth, and the truth was God. That is an objective statement. It is not saying that whatever I say about the world becomes true about it. So there's no objectivity here. Whereas I think positing a God as the origin really and from which all else emanates, this is a very objective epistemic claim. And so we can count on the world being real. We can count on God being real. We can count on a lot of things being real. We can count on the fact that our senses and our whole perceptive apparatuses are designed to understand and find truth. This is completely countered by postmodern theory.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned also on your social media that you didn't renounce the left only to have your views dictated, you said, for people hiding leftism under libertarianism. Do you see that? Where is that playing out in the context?
There's a lot of it going on in the Libertarian Party per se, the party itself. There's a lot of woke libertarians out there that are effectively trying to use the same tactics that the left uses into shaming people, into cancel culture, telling you what you can't and can't say, effectively dictatorial people who have permeated the Libertarian Party. I think a lot of them fled after, the Democratic primary was ripped off by Hillary Clinton from Bernie Sanders. I think they fled the Democratic Party and fled to the Libertarian Party and have attempted to overtake it. And in many senses have overtaken it. If it weren't for the Mises Caucus, it would be completely woke and gone. Mm-hmm. But I think the Mises Caucus has pushed back considerably and has taken a great hunk, brought a whole lot of new people in. And these are people that believe in individual rights and in the premise of libertarianism that we have the right to property, the first property of which is ourselves. And without that right, we are slaves.
Right.
If the state if the state denies our right to ourselves, then we become slaves of the state. They can tell us what to do. We have no right to do to do what we wish. One of the premises of libertarianism is that our freedom derives from our property and ourselves.
Right. Yeah, and right now those principles are being used as a bludgeon against us with these social media companies saying, "Oh, we're a private company," and companies saying, "Hey, you can take a product that the only reason why we have to take it is because government was screwing around with the Wuhan lab using our money, and then they decided to make this experimental product, and you must take it, but we're a free market company, so you can't do nothing to us."
That's a completely specious argument. First of all, these companies are not free market companies. They are not free market corporations. We see the collaboration and the entanglement that they have with the state. I mean, they are being dictated to by the state and vice versa to censor people. The Biden administration has instructed social media companies to censor disinformation, and therefore they have become agents or organs or instruments of the state. I call them governmentalities. Actually, that's a word I borrowed from Michel Foucault and gave it an extended meaning to mean that they actually become governmental apparatuses. And so this argument that they're free market enterprises is nonsense. They are statists because they get, by virtue of doing what the state wants, they maintain their monopolies. And that's what they're looking to do. They want to monopolize the market. And there's this weird monopolization that's going on in our society, in the culture, economics, in information, in every sphere, where everything is being monopolized by a particular contingent that has a particular ideology, and anything that doesn't coincide with this ideology is instantly deemed misinformation or disinformation. It's censored. It is basically shut down. And you can't even find news. You can't find information through Google that isn't filtered through this leftist authoritarian sieve, if you will.
Right.
So try to find, things about COVID or just about anything. They're all filtered through this leftist, doctrinaire, authoritarian, verging on totalitarian ideology.
We're speaking with Professor Michael Rectenwald. His website's michaelrectenwald.com, and he's also launching a new program called American Scholars, which is at americanscholars.com. We'll take a break and return in just a moment live on A Neighbor's Choice. Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, But Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved 2 people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com. Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gronowski here with Professor Michael Rechtenwald. So with your American Scholars Project, do you see that this could be something that could really help shake up the game in the online discourse and the intellectual game for America for future generations? I hope that we're not going to continually be bogged down by all of these kind of heavy-handed totalitarians. That why can't we have, wouldn't it be great, for example, as annoying as the left libertarians are, if that was what we were dealing with? It was conservative libertarian type people with traditional family values versus leftist nihilistic liberty. I mean, that would be much more, it seems like, winnable situation. But unfortunately, there's such an appetite for totalitarian authority on both sides in many cases.
Yes, there is. Well, I think that's the problem is how do we get ourselves out of this totalitarian stranglehold that we're in without allowing another kind to overtake it? And this is really a difficult thing, but I think once we understand what totalitarianism is, how it operates, the kind of people that are involved in it, the psychologies behind these people, then we can counter it. That we could create and regain our freedom without imposing our values on other people through authoritarian means. And that's a big project, and it's something that we need to undertake.
Yeah, I think a fundamental problem with what's driving a lot of this bad ideas, because it starts with bad ideas before it becomes bad policy, is the idea.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the idea of the human body is not sacred, right? I mean, this idea that your natural body, I saw you posted that your natural immunity is better than whatever big pharma products they want you to take, but that's not good enough for these busybodies. They don't want you to respect your own body ability to take care of disease. They don't want you to respect your own body to heal itself from chronic diseases. They don't want you to respect the human body in the unborn child, or the human body in Afghanistan, or the human body left in a cage because of defying Australia's lockdown orders. They don't like human bodies. That's their problem.
They don't like us to have any autonomy whatsoever.
Yeah.
They don't mind having us as mere pieces of a system. But the minute we assert individual autonomy, this is where they're coming down on us incredibly. Yes, you're right. There's so many ways in which individual autonomy is being abrogated, being destroyed, being denied us through our own medical rights, the right to our bodily autonomy in terms of what we put in it, the way we are able to move through society, whether being restricted by vaccine passports, or lockdowns, or other means, which is just crazy based on the science, as they call it, the science, which is anything but scientific, because it restricts open inquiry entirely and tells us what is true without allowing investigation. This is not the science. This is ideology. This is complete scientism, owned by a few people who are, not just by a few people, being disseminated from authorities and then carried out by a great number of people who are effectively allowing themselves to be enrolled in this totalitarian regime. And I write about this kind of enrollment, the way the way totalitarianism basically conscripts people into becoming agents of the state in an essay called The Power of the Powerless. Living in the Age of COVID, the power of the powerless, which derives from an essay by Václav Havel, who was a dissident in Czechoslovakia during the communist reign there. And he talked about how to counter totalitarianism. And I tried to apply that to our contemporary moment under what I'm calling COVID totalitarianism.
Well, that sounds very interesting. Another thinker, I think, and I've told you about this, we talk about it all the time, is Rene Girard. He needs to be back into I think he is a scholar that can easily really contend with the woke scholars and beat them back if people understand what he's really talking about. Unfortunately, even with his theory, you get a lot of dumb leftist ideologies coming in and saying, hey, I get the point of scapegoating. It means everything the team I don't like is doing. That's all it means. It's like, are you stupid or what? Good Lord have mercy.
Right.
It's like, I get how the right scapegoats, yeah.
The phrase, the pandemic of the unvaccinated is scapegoating. These are the kind of things we're talking about. We're talking about sacrificing people, vilifying them, and making them into scapegoats for the powers that be to destroy in order to satisfy, their agenda. That's scapegoating.
Yeah, it's a mess. Well, I really appreciate what you guys are doing over there. And again, the date is what? September 13th? 10th? September 10th, AmericanScholars.com will launch. Is there any way to have an email list or something like that to stay in touch?
Yes, we have an email list, and we'll be sending that out. We'll be sending out emails, but people will be hearing about it in the news. But yeah, go to AmericanScholars.com. You'll be able to sign up at that time.
Well, very good. Thanks again, Professor Michael Rechtenwald.
My pleasure, David. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for hour one for A Neighbor's Choice, folks. We're going to have a quick break, and then we'll return for more live news. I've got a lot more stories going on. It seems like the COVID thing continues to kind of unravel in terms of their attempts to use it as a pressure point for locking us into eternal tyranny. It doesn't mean that it's all sunny and roses. They're going to keep trying hard, and they're going to come up with every gimmick and lie they can. But it continues. You just feel that in the air, there's an energy shift taking place where people are just saying, wait a second, come on. Your lies are catching up. Reality is piercing through. And people are saying, we're not going to have you dictate our lives, sponsored by Pfizer or whatever stupid company they have, telling us how we're going to live our lives. You're not going to do it. Pfizer couldn't figure out cancer. They couldn't figure out diabetes. They can't figure out heart disease. Their products are not very effective. You're not going to tell us what we can put on our bodies. Sick freaks. So anyways, email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. We'll be back for hour two. Godspeed.
Your home for news, talk, and information. 1040 WHBO Pinellas Park. Tampa Bay's all new News Talk 1040.
It's the only way I get news.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. President Biden in Louisiana this hour, touring flooded out neighborhoods in Laplace outside New Orleans. Nearly 1 million customers in the state remain without power. He says that could come on as early as next week.
We're working 24/7 with the energy companies who we met with the heads of today, and we're deploying even more federal resources, including hundreds of generators, and there's more to come to restore power as fast as we possibly can.
The damage from Ida leaving a mark on lives and livelihoods. FEMA's Individual Assistance Director Chris Smith saying to date 290,000 applications have been made for FEMA. That's a record. Ida blamed for more than 60 deaths now in 8 states. President Biden earlier today weighing in on the new abortion law in Texas and possible legal challenges.
President Biden Friday slammed the new law in Texas that effectively bans nearly all abortions in that state.
It sort of creates a vigilante system where people get rewards to go out to, anyway. And it just seems, I know this sounds ridiculous, almost un-American.
The president said he continues to be a strong supporter of the rights established under Roe v. Wade, but he didn't say what specific steps his administration can take to protect those rights when it comes to restrictive state laws. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
U.S. hiring slowed last month, only 235,000 jobs added. Chief economist Diane Swonk with Grant Thornton says economic recovery is tied to the pandemic.
We saw flatline hiring in leisure and hospitality, actual declines at restaurants. Hotspots, we know mobility actually slowed in those places hardest hit by the Delta variant. As hospitalizations and fatalities pick up, that's when people pull back the most. We know that's regardless of any restrictions.
CDC shows COVID deaths in the U.S. surge past 1,000 deaths each day on average. You're listening to ABC News.
Do you check your Google search results regularly? You should. People often get their first impression of you or your business online. Negative comments on the internet can impact your life and your livelihood. Take control of your online reputation. Get your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com. It may reveal negative posts from an ex-employee, upset patient or client, news article, legal issue, or even exposed personal information right there in your Google search results. Uncover what's lurking on the internet about you with reputationdefender.com's patented scan and get your free reputation report card. Or for immediate assistance with your reputation, call 800-401-6681. Our cutting-edge technology helps make your Google search results look their best. Call 800-401-6681. That's 800-401-6681. 800-401-6681. Or take the free scan at reputationdefender.com.
A guilty plea today from the January 6th rioter known as the QAnon Shaman.
Jacob Chansley pleaded guilty Friday to one felony count related to his role in the Capitol riot, which carries a maximum sentence of up to 20 years in prison. The count was obstruction of an official proceeding, the most serious charge. His 5 other charges will be dismissed as part of his agreement. He is set to be sentenced on November 17th. Ika Giacchi, ABC News, Washington.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken will travel to Qatar on Sunday to meet with staff of the former U.S. Embassy in Kabul. They transferred there. Blinken says the State Department is still actively involved in getting Americans and Afghans with special immigration visas out of Afghanistan with the cooperation of the Taliban.
We continue to maintain channels of communication with the Taliban on issues that are important to us.
The Secretary of Homeland Security, meantime, saying today the U.S. expects to admit more than 50,000 Afghans, and that final number could be higher from transit sites. A messy start to Labor Day travel. Airlines still rebooking passengers after Ida shut down airports in the Northeast. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
The busiest airports, Atlanta, Chicago O'Hare, and LAX. Planes will be packed, but so will the roads. About 34 million drivers are expected. The national average for gas ticking up now at $3.18 a gallon.
This is ABC News.
Your nose is the body's air filter, the first line of defense against airborne allergens, bacteria, and viruses. You wash your hands to protect your health. Now you can clean your nose with Navage. Online and
hey, I can swear in German too. Watch this. Das, the Boston Beer Company, Boston, Mass. Enjoy responsibly.
I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
News Talk 1040, Tampa Bay weather forecast.
Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Ellen Archer at your News Talk 1040 WHBO Weather Center. Currently, our radar is indicating widely scattered showers and a few developing thunder showers trying to ease in slowly from the west-northwest. It's a 35% chance here this afternoon with the high temperature at 89, 20% tonight at 77, 20% tomorrow afternoon with a high of 89, just 10 to 15% Sunday here at News Talk 1040 WHBO.
This portion of the upcoming amazing broadcast is brought to you by the law firm of Catania & Catania, award-winning personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys, serving Tampa Bay families for over 28 years.
From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media. A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gornosky. So glad to be with you again, live for another hour of broadcast news and analysis. Our email is hello@aneighborschoice.com. You can send us an email for a guest suggestion or a question, comment about the show. Or if you want to sign up for our new invitation-only Zoom, we're going to do a Zoom where you can do a mimetic anthropology question and answer. I'll be there to answer your questions regarding biblical anthropology, mythology versus biblical revelation, and then how to apply that anthropological insights to what's happening in current events today. I demonstrate it a bit on this radio show, but I do more of a deep dive analysis of these things on my podcast, Things Hidden, which you can find on aneighborschoice.com. But on September 9th, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, that's next Thursday, we're going to do our first Zoom. It'll just be a little small group just to get started, just to figure out how people like the format and get started in a simple setting. And then we'll go from there, and we'll see if we want to modify it or change the format in some way as we go. But that'll be September 9th, 11 a.m. Eastern on Zoom. You have to have the password to get in, and you can email hello@aneighborschoice.com if you'd like to participate. So looking at some of the comments that we're seeing here on the live stream, someone says, have you considered the new Australian Identify and Disrupt bill? Police can now hack citizen devices, social media accounts, and edit your posts, make new posts, etc. Goodness. I mean, I'm telling you, they are using Australia as a lab rat experiment for what they can get away with. This is like a giant Stanford prison experiment. And it's disgusting. These sociopaths that want to do this kind of stuff to people. I haven't heard of that particular thing, but it doesn't surprise me. What's next? I saw somebody say, is Taliban going to have to send in troops to liberate Australia? This is ridiculous. And of course, we won't accept any Australian refugees unless they bring their, if they have child brides like the Taliban, people do. So that's the thing, about the way this screwy statist world works. Another says, I believe that cryptocurrency is a good avenue for the creation of a new economic system. Yeah, I think there's a lot of promise in that field. Excuse me, I just sneezed a little bit. But I believe there's a lot of promise in that field. And I think that, again, I'm open to learning more. I don't know all the different. Every day, someone's telling me to get into another crypto. This one, this coin, this coin, and it's a lot of different stuff. And I haven't really waded into that field. You know how many topics I cover on this show already. I don't think anybody else covers the different topics, both on a broad picture and in detail, the way this show does. Another comment, medical wants to perpetuate chronic disease. Dr. Seyfried knows cancer. Dr. Sabatin knows heart disease. They are both getting old. Tucker Goodrich knows mitochondria. Yes, there's a lot of great voices. And we are honored to have so many of these wonderful pioneer voices on our show on a regular basis to learn from, so that we don't have to be stuck in these dumb TV party paradigms of outdated approaches to medicine and health, because that's really where it gets down to. So let's look at some comments. Let's just go through some of the things. Mike Cernovich, he's a commenter. He says, if a man would molest a child, what principle would stop him from claiming to be transgender to get access to locker rooms? Why is this so hard for Democrats to comprehend? And that's a point that is well said here, is that when you don't have any principles guiding what you're saying, you just have this almost like a obsession, an emotional state. You don't really know what you're talking about. You're just blabbering and saying, no, they must have absolute right. And you're like, okay, but what's the standard to not allow for bad actors? They don't have one because they don't believe, as the Michael Rechtenwald interviewed in the last hour showed, they don't have any concern with objective truth or words having meaning. So who's to say what anybody believes or thinks or what's right or wrong? It's just same old attempts to justify human depravity. Here's another. Let's get into some of these stories that I collected for the medical situation. WND.com reports Pfizer now developing a twice-a-day COVID pill that must be taken alongside the vaccine. So, and there's other ones too. I believe Merck, which is the one that created ivermectin originally, but now it's not patented anymore. It's generic, so they disowned it. And they say, oh, there's no way it could do anything for this disease. Wait till we come up with our products, dummy. We got to spend billions of dollars, and we're going to make billions of dollars. We have no reason to do that. We won't have a business if we just say, yeah, that generic drug works. Don't need to develop this product that we've got the taxpayers billions of dollars to make. Come on. It's a total corrupt fascist healthcare system. It's garbage trash. Absolutely despicable. Gutter trash ethics these companies have. I don't care what person you know who's got a good heart or a smart head. You have to be brainless to not see how absolutely fundamentally screwed up this system is when their only thing, let me say it for the billionth time, the only way the entire medical corporation cartel can make money in our government-rigged monopoly medical system is you got to get a product patented. Costs $1 billion, 10 to 15 years for a normal process for a drug. The only people who can afford that are billion-dollar companies with $1 billion price tag, and the way they get their money back, but oftentimes they get it from us now, so it's not even their money. But the way they make their product profit is the patent. So that's why Merck will disown ivermectin, because it's a generic drug. That's like asking McDonald's to endorse, a product that's not theirs. They're not going to endorse the Whopper. Once a product is generic, it's like it's dead to them. It's as if it's a competitor. They still might manufacture it, or others might, but they can't exclusively control it. It's in the public domain, and therefore it's dead to them. Okay? And I don't understand why liberals and the neocon folks can't understand this basic print. They can't wrap their brain around it. And I don't get it. It might be why they hate math and they think that's corrupt or something. I don't know what it is. Logic is a problem. Everything's a problem with these people, but they can't even see how they're being screwed over with their ignorance. Here's the Daily Mail saying Israel is now the world's COVID hotspot, despite leading the jab charge. So one of the most vaccinated countries in the whole world is now the center of this outbreak. It's data like this is going to change the game. Eventually, it's going to, snowball. Here's a quote from the actual government of UK, their UK government, Public Health England, their own report, okay? This is their SARS-CoV-2 variants of concern and variants under investigation report, published on today, September 3, 2021. But I'm going to pull this quote out. It says, UK data, best data we have, this is a summary from Paul Alexander, UK data, the best data we have on Delta, table 5, page 22 of this report, which I have linked on our social media. Page 22, 69% of deaths in Delta are from the double vax. This is the real data, not CNN or your local news or CDC. So they keep lying to you. You'll see local hospitals. I've seen them here in Florida trying to make it all look like, oh, this is only people who are not getting the product. And yet there's the real extensive data out of the UK. speaking of the issue of the ideology behind this pandemic, Martin Kulldorff says, for thousands of years, disease pathogens have spread from person to person. He's the Harvard epidemiologist we talked about. Never before have carriers been blamed for infecting the next sick person. This is a very dangerous ideology. Now, he's right and wrong, because for thousands of years, diseases have spread from person to person. But the idea that this is the first time that they've been blamed for infecting the next sick person, that's not true. I mean, we've got all kinds of examples of witch hunts and manias where people believe that someone of a different religion or a different ethnicity or different whatever is causing everybody to be sick. But it's true that in more recent modern times, when we've had more of a Christian framework of treating people the way we want to be treated, yes, we didn't get to the stupid point of trying to demonize and even these horrible people gleefully gloating at the thought that people die. I mean, I can't tell you how much these trash media outlets love reporting on any so-called Republican or conservative or libertarian or somebody who gets sick or dies with COVID who was a critic of the lockdowns or a critic of they love it. They write every story. It's so disgusting. It's reprehensible. It's the most trashy, low life, you want to talk about deplorable? That's deplorable, okay? You don't do that. You never do that for the left or right or anybody. You don't laugh at people suffering. And then they try to inject their dumb, toxic ideology. And the reason why they do that is because deep down, the people who rushed off to do what the TV told them and what Trump told them to do, and Biden, deep down, they're a little concerned that maybe they jumped the gun. And every day that they see that half the country still doesn't want to take this product, and that everybody who took the product is still getting sick, and that many of them are still going on to hospitalization and severe issues and death even, there was like, well, why did I take this product? And was it the fact that other people are not, is there long-term problems that I don't know about? And the way they offset that anxiety is by constantly vilifying the other. It is a way of dealing with catharsis. It's the way of relieving tension. And that's why they do it. That's what scapegoating's for. You scapegoat somebody to offset tension and blame and guilt and anxiety. You shift it onto the back of somebody else. People talk about blame shifting. There's also shame shifting. People feel, oh, what did I do? Should I have waited? What? I've got to make the other people look horrible monster scum. And when Joe Rogan gets something and he takes something that the king has not decreed because the TV and government do not support medical solutions that don't have a patent with billions of dollars behind them. When that happens, you see people's ugly, immoral character come out. Oh, you're bad. You took this. Oh, and it's not just immoral, it's also stupidity, right? Because they fall for every corporate bumper sticker slogan that's coming out to create disinformation. So again, we have to use our wits. We have to use our wisdom. We have to use discernment to navigate these times and understand that I think these narratives are really starting to fall apart. And you even see the mainstream corporate McWoke press reporting on the facts. That means there's just too much data for them to keep hiding their lies and their government agencies' failure. So we'll take a break and return with more. Stay with us. David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
What have we learned over the past couple of years about health? We've learned a lot. I'm Dr. Michael Lang, popular radio program host of Ask the Doctor. In order to stay healthy, we need to eat the right foods, get the right amount of exercise, and listen to this, take the right supplements to keep your immune system peaking at all times. I've developed the best formula, providing you the best opportunity to keep the immune system primed. It is a bundle like no other, highly researched and developed Fortify products. It's called the Super Wellness Bundle. 6 great choices for wellness: protein product, organic blue-green superfood, Fortify Focus, Fortify Probiotics, Super Omega-3 Max, and Fortify Complete, all bundled together and offered at a tremendous discount. It's only $130. Normally is $210. This combination of healthy supplements added to your exercise and nutritional routine will keep the immune system running at peak, and it's all very affordable. Go to fortify.com. That's Fortifeye. Remember the EYE in Fortify. Get the great immune system offer. I am Dr. Michael Lang. I am keeping America fit and healthy with clean supplements.
So looking at this tweet from Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care, which is the FLCCC Alliance group of bold, caring doctors, ICU doctors, top of the line, published doctors. We interviewed one of them, Dr. Pierre Corey, on my show. We didn't put it on platforms that ban it, but you can find it on our website and Rumble, which you should do, where we talked about a lot of great stuff. And Dr. Pierre Corey is a very great doctor, and his organization put out a tweet saying the FDA is asking you to believe that IVM, which they approved years ago for humans, is now nothing more than a dangerous horse dewormer. Meanwhile, Pfizer and Merck are developing C19 antivirals to do in the future what IVM does right now. So please wait to get C19 till then. And that's just a great summation of these discredited agencies. The whole world is realizing what folks have been knowing, who've paid attention, has been going on with these NIH and FDA and so forth, that they're not reliable. They are fringe. They have dogs in the fight. They have biases that they don't even know they have. And they just have no accountability. And they have a revolving door relationship with the people they're supposed to be honest about. National File says Cheers star Kirstie Allen, 70, says she used ivermectin in the Joe Rogan protocol to treat COVID and recovered in 12 days. Again, Rogan has said he's tested negative now after 3 days. Took the unapproved medicine that's generic, so it doesn't have a patent, which means your greedy government, your discredited fringe government agencies are going to tell you not to do it. You know, and then you meanwhile, you see a lot of censorship going on. Look at this study. Look at this CNN. This is CNN itself. What does this mean? U.S. states that had some of the worst COVID-19 cases rates in the past week also reported the highest rates of new, new vaccinations. So let me repeat this. This is published today in CNN. U.S. states that had some of the worst COVID-19 cases in past week also reported the highest rates of new vaccinations. In the article, it says the survey led by the CDC also indicates that about twice as many people have been infected with the virus as have been officially counted. So do you see how that would dramatically change the death rate that they tout all the time? And hospitalization rates? That's tucked away. It's buried in this story. Quote, the CDC study also indicates that about twice as many people have been infected with the virus as have been officially counted. What does that do to the survivability rate? If the official numbers are halfway to the accurate reality, that cuts everything in half, doesn't it? If that's the truth. So, there's a sea change happening, I see here in the narrative. John Katz says, here's the deal. It triggers people who've spent their lives trying to master something when someone comes along with superior natural talent and instincts and outperforms them on the first try. It's why the political establishment hates Trump and why the mainstream media hates Joe Rogan. Joel, a commenter, says, don't think this applies to Trump, but there are countless other examples. I mean, that's stupid. It's like look, let me tell you something. I tell people this all the time. Nancy Pelosi and Trump have more in common politically than I have to either one of them. Okay? But the idea that Trump doesn't have a natural political talent, I mean, you'd have to be the most foolish person to literally say that. But people are so emotionally driven that they cannot think rationally on some things. They just can't, even if they can think rationally on something else. Somebody could teach you how to assemble a microwave, but then say, oh no, Trump's not talented. He's a bad, dumb person. It's like, we're not saying he's smart on everything. We're not saying any of that. The idea that he's not talented, that he doesn't have a natural talent and instinct for performance art and politicals, that's the dumbest, thing to say, that there's no talent there. He went against 90% of the media, 99% of the media, way outspent in both elections. And come on, this is absolutely absurd. And yes, the mainstream media hates Joe Rogan because he's got way bigger audience than them. And they went to their little prestigious journalism schools. They're the ones that made their best friend forever relationships with the CIA and everything. And they don't understand why a guy who used to host Fear Factor to tell people to eat cockroaches wipes the floor with them in numbers of actual listeners. That humiliates them, and it should. And it will continue to, because they're going to go further and further down the drain in terms of relevance. They are has-beens. ABC, CBS, you're about to hear from ABC. Listen how all they do is shill for war, pharma, fear, blah, 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 blah. We get it. You're has-beens, ABC. Already been chewed news. You're has-beens. You're irrelevant. You're just predating on low info minds that continue to not catch up to the 21st century and use any discernment. And so that's what we're dealing with. We have to move beyond this medical and media paradigm of ignorance and arrogance. That's a toxic combination. We'll continue to address the news and headlines in just a moment. For now, you can write a comment on our live stream, or you can call in at 727-587-1040.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Join me weekdays for This Morning, America's First News. Hear the stories you'll be talking about and searching for all day as we go beyond the headlines and above the chatter with your first look at breaking news, money, Washington politics, technology, entertainment, entrepreneurship, and sports. We explain why stories matter.
The news and information you need to know. Weekday morning 6 to 8 with Gordon Deal on News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Visiting areas hard hit by Hurricane Ida, promising federal help. President Biden in Laplace, Louisiana, outside New Orleans.
We're working around the clock with the governor and the elected officials here until we can meet every need you all have.
Total deaths from Ida and its remnants are now at least 62 in 8 states, 49 in the Northeast. Promising an overhaul of New York City's response system to better prepare for future storms, Mayor Bill de Blasio.
A different kind of warning,
a much more severe kind of warning, and a much more severe set of actions, very physical actions, that bluntly will be a jolt to people and a shock to people.
5 of the 6 apartments where people died in New York City storms were illegally converted cellar and basement apartments, says the city buildings department. 1 out of 8 Americans has tested positive for COVID, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. A mixed day for the Wall Street major indexes. A rally among big tech companies nudged the NASDAQ to another all-time high. Dow and S&P closed lower. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
News Talk 1040, Tampa Bay weather forecast.
Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Ellen Archer at your News Talk 1040 WHBO Weather Center. Currently, our radar is indicating widely scattered showers and a few developing thunder showers trying to ease in slowly from the west-northwest. It's a 35% chance here this afternoon with the high temperature at 89, 20% tonight at 77, 20% tomorrow afternoon with a high of 89, just 10 to 15% Sunday here at News Talk 1040 WHBO.
David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER. Manchin jolts Democrats by urging pause on $3.5 trillion bill. This is in Bloomberg. Senator Joe Manchin is demanding a strategic pause in action on President Joe Biden's economic agenda, potentially imperiling the $3.5 trillion tax and spending package that Democratic leaders plan to push through Congress this fall. The West Virginia Democrat, a linchpin vote in the evenly divided Senate, said at an event in his home state on Wednesday that rising inflation and a soaring national debt necessitate a go-slow approach and a significantly smaller plan than the one Democratic leaders in the White House have endorsed. Can you believe these folks that they want to raise taxes after they've already created inflation that's obscene and it's only going to get worse? Inflation is a hidden tax that these dumb imperialist punks in D.C. put on you. And again, the same people who fall for these dumb big tobacco style hit pieces on generic drugs, calling them horse dewormers. Well, penicillin is given to horses too, stupid. And we don't call that a horse that's a horse drug. Penicillin's a horse drug. That's what dumb, uneducated people say. They're stupid. They listen to stupid big tobacco style propaganda, and then they think they're little midwits, you know. They go and watch these dumb shows. I'm educated. I read the New York Times. It's a hormone. That's what penicillin's given to horses. You don't call that a horse wormer because penicillin is not something getting a big tobacco style attacks against by people who've got billion-dollar products they want you to take. That's the deal, right? But you get all this ignorance like building up in our community because people are arrogant and they're ignorant. And that's a deadly combination, as we have seen. But that's what we're dealing with today, is this arrogant ignorance that infects people's ability to process reality itself. But when we see this story, this idea that you've got to tax people, you're going to tax people during this And so that was my point here with the inflation. The same people who attack this idea that, oh, if you don't take what the king tells you to take, that means you are taking livestock feed because the media told me that, and I have no clue to think without them stimulating my brain. That's how these people act. They're the same people that don't know anything about inflation. They think that rising costs just means, some company wants to be greedy. No, it's debasing the purchasing power of our dollar by printing money to pay for gender studies classes in Kabul, Afghanistan. And then once that's failed after $2 trillion, they then mass import the hundreds of thousands of people that didn't like our ideology forced on them at home, and they're not going to like our values when they come here either, most likely. But low info people who don't know what inflation is, they don't even know what the Federal Reserve System is and how it works, they're not going to be able to understand the forces. So that's why it's important for you to not contribute to the pile of low info people that unfortunately dominate a lot of America by making sure you get your kids out of these failing low info government schools. Because otherwise we're just going to continue to have a nihilistic culture that doesn't respect intelligence and critical thinking. When you see the reaction going on with things like the Texas abortion bill, ultimately, look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Abortion is not going to be solved by laws. It's going to be solved when a culture has respect for human life. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be protections against human life, protections for human life in the womb, but just sticking a law on there, but then sending your kids to government schools where they're taught hedonism and nihilism and decadence, and then making a law, oh, you can't do an abortion by force, but you didn't do anything to equip your children with teachings for sanctity of life and sacredness of life and respect for marriage and respect for dignity and decency. That's not going to solve anything. But the Democrats are hell-bent on making sure that not a single unborn child has a safe haven in any square inch of our land of 330 million people. And so that's the problem with some of the arguments people have said, and I've said, that we need to bring power back local and bring it to the state and local level back to the people, is that when you have an imperialist ideology like McWoke leftism, it cannot leave things alone. It is a busybody ideology that imposes its will onto you and will stick its nose in your business. Even if you try to give them grace and mercy and forgiveness, they'll just keep going and poking you and messing with you. And so that's the problem with, state power deciding on things like life and death and murder and abortion and these different things, is that when states try to make their decisions, the people in the other states say, nope, we must provide not one square inch of safe haven for human beings in the womb in this land. We can't tolerate one town, one city, one state, one home. Anyway, we cannot tolerate any safe haven. And you saw the way Jennifer Psaki got extremely red and angry at the thought that someone would challenge their sacred right of abortion. Because that is a sacrosanct thing for a nihilistic culture that believes might makes right. If you are a human being, but you're really small and you can't speak up, your power of being a human being is diminished compared to mine. It's the same thing with these wars. Those people that want to have perpetual wars against Afghanistan and Iraq and so forth, their idea is, well, you're a human being in a smaller, less powerful country than my country, therefore your life doesn't matter as much. We can do drone strikes on your weddings, and oops, it was just collateral damage. There's no right. If you fight back, we'll hurt you even more. This is the power makes right, might makes right mentality of progressivism. If you're too small and you're a baby in the womb, you don't have power compared to me. If you're someone with Down syndrome, they say get rid of your existence. If you're someone in Afghanistan, your life doesn't matter. You can't do your own culture the way you want to do it. We're bigger than you. We'll tell you what to say. You don't have a platform on Mark Zuckerberg. You don't have Bill Clinton's ear, Mr. Afghanistan citizen. You don't get to speak. We tell you what you're allowed to do. But another facet that's weird about our culture, and it's something to do with what I call the Christ-haunted nature of our society, which is we are haunted by the way we should act. We are haunted by the ways in which we treat marginalized voices. We're haunted by abortion. That's why people get viscerally angry. Again, you have to understand they project. So when they say, I am angry that you've challenged my abortion, it's because they feel bad about it. They feel bad about it. And they don't want anybody to tell them that they should feel bad about it. So they scapegoat the messenger. But our Christ-haunted society has this other weird thing where you see all the time John Cena, you saw with Mulan, you see it with all these different things, a deference from NBA, corporations. I just saw recently another movie. They got it censored about, they were getting, the production company was saying you cannot make China look bad. And you think to yourself, if, you know, because you hear the critique all the time, oh, America's a bully. And yes, our DC elites are bullies. I think the average American wants to be left alone and wants to leave the world alone in much of the heartland. In little America. But a lot of the world thinks, well, America must think they're, you know, God's gift to mankind. But there's this weird self-flagellation that's also a part of America, where you can bash our founders, you can bash our founding fathers, you can bash our Christianity inheritance, you can bash the Bible, you can bash cultural habits. You can bash our government in terms of the original constitutional republic we were supposed to be. You can bash that all day long. In fact, that is actively funded and financed in power centers of America. But you can't criticize Chinese government. Why is this the way it is? What kind of a country has more censorship for criticism of its enemies than its own people and founder? Meaning, why are they more likely to protect China's image than they are our own founding fathers? Part of it has to do with the fact, again, that we are a Christ-haunted society. Jesus said, thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. And here's what I mean by this, and bringing that passage up. When you see that kind of mentality, it's the Christ haunting of his call to end violence and sacrifice that ends up making our politically correct culture act in ridiculous self-flagellation. Now, the point here, somebody commented on my thing saying, I would assume PC culture is more atheist than Christian, but maybe I'm wrong. But see, that's missing. You're thinking like a modernist rather than the way we need to think. It's not about Christianity. Atheism comes from Christianity, okay? It doesn't mean it's truly Christian. You got to understand Christianity is not just the actual imitation of Christ. It's also the impact of Christian stories and the gospel story and how it shapes a culture in the aftermath of being infected with it for some time. It opens up certain ways of thinking that often go in errors. And so if you look at atheism today, it's usually about having zeal to make sure people have literacy and that the diseases can be wiped out and that, you know, gender studies can be mandated in Kabul and all these different things. Well, this stuff comes from Christianity, even though it's deviations and mutations and bastardizations of Christianity, it's still coming from that inheritance of always take care of the least of these, take care of the outsider, take care of the marginalized, take care of the scapegoat. And so that's what you see today. That's why we have the kind of culture that allows for there to be more criticism of our own founding fathers than for any criticism of the vicious, violent regime in China. Because that comes from this idea, well, I can't criticize my Chinese government, the Chinese government's neighbor, that's the neighbor, that's the other. I can't blame their sin because I've got my own sin of slavery and bigotry and all the things that they talk about constantly about America. So that is a bastardization and an excessive mutation of Jesus's framework of saying, give consideration to your own blind spot so that you can see clearly what's really going on with your neighbor. But that gets twisted and mutated because we don't want to imitate Christ. We're haunted by, that's why I use the word haunting on purpose. Haunting doesn't mean we're doing it right. It means we're bothered by it, right? And so we're making ideologies like political correctness and victimism to try to outcompete the Christness of Christ, if that makes sense. We're trying to outcompete the love of Jesus, the love that Jesus exemplifies in his life. And so that's why we have this kind of culture where it's happening every day that movies are saying, do not ever dare criticize Chinese government. We must only bash the heck out of Christianity and the founding fathers of our government. That's a mutated, perverted derivation of this idea that Jesus introduced into history that said, take care, love your enemy, forgive your enemy. So we should, look, there is a truth to the idea that we shouldn't scapegoat, because that's what some folks on the right do, people who want, and it happens on the left, where anything that goes wrong in our society, we say, oh, the Chinese government did it. Well, that's stupid. There's a lot of people in our own government that are anti-American in their own self. They don't have to be funded by some foreign government. So we don't want to scapegoat another country for our problems. But at the same time, it's interesting to note that the reason we have this environment in which Chinese criticism is banned from all the Hollywood films and NBA, but you can bash the heck out of everything about the founding fathers, even though the system they built and envisioned for government was miles ahead of anything coming out of the CCP. But you can't appreciate anything about your own country because we have to be so self-flagellating that we can't say anything good about what we've come from. So that is only possible because of the haunting of Christ. So what the answer is Christ here, right? The answer is to imitate the true respect, to be able to have solidarity and not demonize other countries, but at the same time speak the truth and understand that what the founders did was, again, morally, ethically, miles beyond, leagues beyond what the CCP wants. And we should be able to say that, and we should be able to make movies that recognize the victims of the CCP. That's a true Christian approach to critiquing power, but also being able to critique the victims of our own government, right? That's what Christianity does. It stands in solidarity with every human person, no matter which government is doing the victimization. Let's take a break and return. A Neighbor's Choice. We'll be back. Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, but Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved two people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania Catania personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
So people are confused when they think, wait a second, atheism isn't Christianity. And it's like, well, you don't get it. Christianity is what creates all of these different spin-off ideologies and so-called worldviews like atheism in the modern sense. There was always a classical atheism, but it's different from the modern humanist brotherhood of man vision of the new atheists. And the same goes for political correctness. And if Christians want to resist this idea, it's because they don't understand Christianity. Unfortunately, I'm telling you the truth, people have this kind of ideological approach to Christianity, that Christianity is about a checklist of mental beliefs and you just got to check off these lists and therefore you're a Christian. It's like you don't understand what Christianity did to impact and shape everything in the world, including the errors that are trying to overthrow and supplant the work of Christ. Okay? So that's so important that Christians especially get this, or else they're going to continue to turn people off from their faith because they're not representing what it's about. So I'll show you some examples of this Christ-haunted victim political correctness. MSN.com says, Sweet Green CEO criticized after connecting the pandemic to unhealthy eating. Quote, they called it incredibly fat-phobic. So see, again, because we're haunted by Jesus unveiling the hidden violence at the heart of the scapegoat mechanism that has been what humans have been doing to each other, scapegoating one for the greater good, anybody who is marginalized or picked on becomes a place of sacred martyr status. So that includes obese people. So our culture, haunted by the cross that it is, looks at something and says, guy's telling the truth, at least on one level. I think he's advocating eating lots of plant-based stuff, which is not the answer. The answer is to get rid of vegetable oils, reduce your consumption of unhealthy grains and sugar, and get exercise and sunshine, and make sure you get all your, whole foods that you're eating. But the general point of saying that the pandemic is connected to unhealthy eating is absolutely right, 100%. But our society is so haunted by, oh my goodness, if we start saying that people overeating are causing their sickness, oh my goodness, that's going to make people who are obese feel bad. They're going to feel like they're different. They're going to feel like they're being picked on. They're going to feel like, oh my goodness, I should be worshiped for my massive obesity. So Big Food loves that kind of stuff because they can keep dumping in the corn oil into all your foods. And as you get 500 pounds, they can say, hey, you just need to love your body as sick as it looks. Oh, it's not sick. It's exactly the way it needs to look. Keep eating the corn oil. Keep blowing up to 600 pounds. It's stupid, right? But the reason we have that is because of our Christian tradition, which says make space for the scapegoat, make space for the marginalized. That gets exploited, that gets hijacked and turned into this political correctness. That's where it comes from. You didn't have body positivity insanity clouding people's ability to tell the truth about scientific facts like obesity being connected to a pandemic disease response. You didn't have this kind of stuff in the ancient world. It's because of Christianity that we have this type of weird political correctness, and nobody, including most Christians, are not taught this. This is why people don't know how to deal with it. Here's another example of Christian worldview creating the foundation for, and again, it's not Christianity's fault. It's the fault of human beings who want to hold on to their idolatry. They want to hang on to their worship of the state. They want to hang on to their worship of human beings, but they're still swimming in Jesus's fishbowl in terms of sensitivity to the plight of victims. So they misapply Jesus's concern for victims into erroneous implications. For example, freebeacon.com says Democrats tuck female draft into the defense bill. So they want to push forcing your daughters to have to go serve in endless wars. And so because, again, political correctness is a mutation, a perverted imitation of Christianity, Christianity says, don't scapegoat people, don't marginalize people, give space for the other. Well, people say, well, if we send off our sons for lies, we might as well got to send our daughters too, because everybody's got to be equal. So that's the dumb, mutated Christianity that goes off into that thing. That doesn't mean that every war is always going to be unnecessary. If we're being invaded, there's a time to fight, but you don't send your daughters to do the frontline draft. Nobody should be drafted, okay? Because your body is yours. But you don't solve the evil of the draft by bringing young women into the mix too, to be forced to go fight for Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or Biden's brother's check he got or whatever scam that they're doing next. That's where we're at today. We are a Christ-haunted society. I saw somebody who was tweeting out this on social media, talking about how today our movies used to be a villain would show up and say, I want to commit, genocide. And the audience response would be to say, well, you're a bad guy. And now our movies have all these villains that say, I wasn't loved as a child. Also, I want to commit genocide. And we're supposed to say, wow, they're so sympathetic. Who's really the bad guy here? So we're supposed to be that way. That's because we are haunted by scapegoating. We're haunted by exclusion to the point where we lose our mind because we don't want to actually just follow Christ. We'd rather create our own mutated, idolatrous imitations of Jesus' call to repent from collective violence, to repent from scapegoating. Aaron says political correctness is the woke variant of Christianity. It's right. It's true. And Isaac Morehouse tweeted out there, this is what David Granosky calls evidence of a Christ-haunted world. Christ broke the cycle and concern for victims was born, warped into worship of victimhood, but still a bizarre thing to behold in a pre-Christian world. That's it for Neighbor's Choice, folks. Email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. That's hello@aneighborschoice.com to stay in touch. I'm David Granosky. Godspeed.